Hello, everyone. How are you doing? How's everything? Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold here, but let me try to get through this as swiftly and as intelligently as possible. Today, exposing the web of influence, how ANSI and ANAB's control over federal agencies and global standards undermines national security and integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, business owners, my fellow citizens, my friends, I stand before you, or sit before you, to address a pressing issue that threatens not only the integrity of our national standards, but also the very security of our nation. It is a story of bureaucratic entanglements and compromised oversight, and perhaps most alarming, the invisible web of influence that has quietly shaped our regulatory landscape for decades. At the center of the issue are two organizations that have quietly and consistently wielded their power over the very agencies that are tasked with protecting our country, setting our standards, and ensuring the safety and security of our citizens. The American National Standards Institute, ANSI, and the American National Crediting Board, ANAB. These organizations are not just members of key international regulatory bodies. They do not merely serve as passive participants. They are active drivers of the very standards that govern countless industries, including aerospace, medicine, technology, and manufacturing. What is more concerning is the overlap between these organizations and critical federal agencies, like the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, FBI, FTC, FAA, FDA, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, which is run by the Department of Commerce, and others. These agencies don't just sit as passive members on the boards of ANSI and ANAB. They are customers involved in key decisions that dictate the flow of national and international regulations. Like NIST and the Department of Homeland Security, they had individuals that sat on their boards, ANSI, ANAB, representing those federal agencies. The guy from NIST gets $120,000 plus his federal salary. The guy from DHS, $262,000 plus his federal salary. Why does this matter? Because when agencies like DHS and NIST, entrusted with safeguarding national security and ensuring the technological competitiveness of the United States, are deeply involved with organizations whose interests may conflict with national security priorities, it raises serious questions about conflict of interest and regulatory capture. Consider this. ANSI and ANAB were not just responsible for setting the standards of American industries, they also created and now control key international bodies like the International Accreditation Forum, which is incorporated in Delaware. It is an association of both international and national accreditation bodies. Their sister organization, ILAC, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, is in Australia. ANSI and ANAB are underwriters for those accreditation bodies, which means, for those novices when it comes to legal, that means they are responsible for all systematic and product failure with those other registration bodies, accreditation bodies on the IAF. They are equivalent in accreditation to ANSI-ANAB. These organizations hold significant sway over accreditation bodies worldwide. These are not just technical bodies. They form the backbone of our global trade and national safety systems. And yet, as these organizations shape the standards and certifications of industries, they have become far too comfortable with foreign interests, particularly from nations like China, whose rise to power has not been incidental. Between 2015 and 21, a gentleman from China, in 1994, he was involved with our quality, Zhao Jinwu, was given a leadership of the IAF chairmanship incorporated in Delaware between 2015 and 21. He is also at the time the chairman, or actually the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, who actually stood in a laboratory with ill-prepared technicians and called Wuhan, China. Yes, that was the virus was most readily released from there because you had a lady, Pamela Sale, Vice President of Laboratory Accreditation for ANSI-ANAB, who said under deposition in 2017 that from one laboratory to another, they lack protocols, means it's out of control. And the scientists were told, American scientists who went there to Wuhan, that they did not have enough trained and skilled technicians. For that is the first line of defense for any escape. Let us be clear about this. China is not just a rising economic powerhouse. It is integrated into the very fabric of our global regulatory and standards bodies. As China has grown in power, so too has its influence over bodies like ANSI and ANAB. This is not merely an academic concern. This is real. China's interests are being woven into the fabric of our most critical infrastructure sectors, all under the guise of voluntary consensus standards and international cooperation. Take, for example, the story of Tesla and Elon Musk, someone who I have had the opportunity to engage with directly in 2018. When Musk was still at the helm of Tesla, I sent him a letter, one that has become part of my ongoing efforts to expose these hidden connections. In my letter, I highlighted the deep and troubling involvements of Tesla's registrar with these very organizations, ANSI and ANAB, and their role in shaping a regulatory environment that could very easily be compromised by foreign influence. Tesla was just one of the many organizations inadvertently drawn into the web, but it is important to recognize the systematic risks this poses, not just for individual companies, but for our national security. If we are to believe that standards governing our safety of our aerospace industry, medical technologies, and even materials used in critical infrastructure are being set by unbiased entities, then we must ask ourselves, who truly are these standards meant to protect? It is worth noting that ANSI and ANAB are not just involved in American industries. They are actively shaping global standards by holding powerful positions within international bodies such as IAF and ILAC. They have extended their reach. They were founders of the IAF, the sister organization of ILAC, as I told you in the beginning of this video. American borders and the influence isn't benign. It has real-world consequences. Consider how many organizations with ties to agencies like DHS and NIST have become gatekeepers of national security information certification processes and critical safety protocols. When these organizations maintain dual roles as customers of ANSI-ANAB while also sitting on their boards, the result is a dilution of accountability, the erosion of independence, and the rise of regulatory capture. We see the creation and closed loop of influence where agencies, industries, and foreign interests benefit at the expense of American sovereignty and national security. The fact that DHS and NIST, two of the most important federal agencies for safeguarding our nation's security and technological infrastructure, are deeply entangled with ANSI-ANAB raises a fundamental question. Whose interests are they serving? When a government agency that is supposed to act in the public interest and safeguard our country's well-being is so deeply embedded in a system designed to benefit private organizations, especially those of international ties, it undermines the trust that the American people place in these institutions. We cannot afford to allow the corporate interests, and especially foreign corporate interests, to dictate the standards that concern our industries from aerospace to cybersecurity. We must demand accountability from these organizations, and we must demand transparency. The very fact that ANSI-ANAB have allowed themselves to become so closely linked with entities like DHS, NIST, entities that are supposed to safeguard our interests, must be addressed in a systematic way. We must not allow them to shape the future of American standards while simultaneously acting as instruments of foreign influence. In conclusion, the web of influence woven by ANSI-ANAB and the federal agencies involved in them is one that cannot be ignored. As the American people, as concerned citizens, we must make a stand. We must demand a complete investigation of these organizations, their ties to foreign powers, and deep conflicts of interest that have potential to jeopardize not just our economic future, but our national security. This is not a matter of politics or partisanship. It is a matter of patriotism, of protecting the interests of our people, of ensuring that our standards are set by those who have the best interests of our country at heart. The path forward requires that we hold these organizations to the highest levels of accountability and reform the systems that they have allowed these conflicts of interest to flourish unchecked for too long. We must also look at Elon Musk. He has a Tesla organization over in China. He's from what we gathered very friendly with Xi Jinping. In China, they have the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, which mandates espionage. Can we have reliability? Was Elon given the highest security clearance in this nation before he began? And even then, it doesn't make a difference because your allegiance is possibly to China. We do not know this, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. Elon Musk, Tesla, has an organization in China dealing with the Chinese. So is there a conflict of interest? We don't know. Many of our corporations do. So we should hold them all accountable, wouldn't you? 203-556-1493. I thank you.